Hello everyone. In the last video, we talked about how to run a simple A/B test using FeatureGate in Statsig. Today, let's talk about how to do more advanced user targeting using various conditions in Statsig's FeatureGates. Here we have the FeatureGate that we used for the previous videos, and as you can see right now, the FeatureGate is passing for half of the people. So if we go back to the product and refresh the page a few times, if you remember, the app is set up so that every time we load the page, the user ID is randomized. So every time there's a 50% of chance we get into either group. And as you can see, the font size for these buttons are changing as I refresh. Now let's go back to the FeatureGate. Let's say for some reason we decided that people in the United States are not reacting to this new feature well, so we want to exclude those users from the A/B test. What we can do is add a new rule, and here, as you can see, we can select a targeting criteria. Here we have a rich list of targeting conditions that you can choose from, and the one that we're going to use right now is country, and we can say if country is any of US, and we'll set the rule to be no US. Set the pass percentage to be 0%, so that everyone who has country equals US will get fail for this FeatureGate. Click add rule. Now that this rule is created, as you can see, we actually show you a warning that here that says no rules below this will be evaluated. That is because the way that rules work is from top to bottom. We're matching a user against the condition for each rule, and we will only go to the next rule if the user does not pass the condition for the previous rule. So for the first rule, the criteria is everyone. That means everyone will pass this rule, and then half of them will get pass and the other half will get fail. Therefore, no one will not pass this rule and go into the next rule. So what we need to do in order to exclude everyone from the US from this FeatureGate is to move this rule up by clicking on this move up button. Now that the no US rule comes before the everyone rule, everyone will be evaluated against this rule first, and if their country is US, then they will fail this rule. But if their country is not US, that means they do not match the condition that means they will not match the condition of this rule, and therefore they will be evaluated against the next rule. So if we save the change, and now let's go back to the demo. Because I'm currently in the US, I will not pass this FeatureGate, and no matter how many times I refresh this page, I will not get the larger font size for this app. You can actually combine multiple different conditions within the same rule so that the user has to pass all of the conditions to pass that rule. For example, what we can do is add another condition that says operating system, any of iOS and Android. Now that this condition is added, for someone to pass this rule, the person needs to be in the US and also on iOS and Android. Because I am on my desktop, I should not pass this rule anymore. So once I save the change, we can go back to the demo, refresh the page a few times. As you can see, I now sometimes get larger font size, sometimes I get smaller size. And that is because I no longer pass the no US rule here, because I'm not on iOS or Android, and I will be evaluated against the next rule, which is everyone that's passing at 50%. Now let's take another look at the add new rule dialog. As you can see, there are already a list of conditions that you can select from, but if none of them feature needs, you can actually use a custom field. Select the operator that you want to use. Let's stick to any of for now, and let us know what's the key for this custom field for your user. Let's say you have a custom field called tier that indicates whether your user is free or paid, and you want to show this feature to free tier users only. You can let us know the field name, which is tier, and then the value you want to target, which let's say is free. We can name this rule free tier user only and set it to be passed at 100%. And now let's move this rule up so that it's right below the non-US rule, and we can save the change. Now let's go to the code editor and set this tier for my user so that we can pass this rule. Here I have a function that's basically telling Statsig what my user object looks like, and we only have user ID at this moment, and it generates a random UUID. what we can do is set a custom field, which is supposed to be a dictionary, and in here we can add a tier, give you a value, free, save the change. Now every user who visits my page is hardcoded to be on the free tier. And if we go back to the demo, refresh the page a few times, now you can see no matter how many times I refresh the page, it's always showing me the larger font size, which means I'm always passing the feature gate. And the reason for that is because I'm not passing the first rule due to not being on the platform iOS or Android. And when I'm evaluated against the second rule, my tier is always free. That means I'm passing this rule and always passing the feature gate because it's set at 100%. If we scroll down to the bottom of the page, the Statsig console actually has a pretty handy playground tool that lets you test your feature gate. And to see, given a user object, would the user pass or fail the feature gate, and due to which rule. So right now, this user has empty value for all the fields, and you can see the user is failing due to the everyone rule. Now if we set the country to be US and the device OS to be iOS, now that the user will match the first rule, but they will fail the feature gate because the rule has a 0% pass rate and the user matched with that rule. Now we can change the value so that the user doesn't match that rule, and we can change the tier to be free. That way the user will match the free tier user's only rule, and you can see this user is supposed to pass this feature gate because that rule is set to pass for 100% of the users. And if we remove this so that the user fall into the last rule, which is everyone, and remember this rule is set at 50% pass rate, if we change the user ID, we'll see that sometimes we get pass, sometimes we get fail. As you can tell, this is a pretty handy tool for you to verify whether your feature gate is set up according to how you expect it to work. And also very useful when you are wondering why a colleague or yourself is not getting a feature that you expect to get. That's it for today's video.